Now, today's Focus report is on Turkey's brain drain, exacerbated by the crackdown following last year's failed coup. Students, academics and entrepreneurs are amongst those deciding to move abroad. They leave for social, economic or political reasons, a lawyer told our team in Istanbul. But some people are forbidden from making their dream of leaving Turkey a reality.
This packed classroom at the start of the new academic year is, in fact, an act of civil disobedience, because this is the so-called Academy of Solidarity, founded by professors who have been dismissed from their positions by the Turkish government in recent months. Their crime? Having signed a petition in January 2016 that demanded the end of military operations in Kurdish-majority regions in Turkey. Most are prosecuted for terrorist propaganda. Hakan Yüksel is among the 5,000 to have been dismissed since a state of emergency was declared last year.
Some Turkish academics are prevented from getting another job or from pursuing their own profession, especially if they're critical of the government.
Hakan was awarded a scholarship at the University of Lille II in France, but he remains stuck in Turkey as one of thousands of former officials who have been forbidden to leave the country following the coup attempt on July 15, 2016. A friend of his is in the same situation.
I was going to go to Magdeburg University in Germany, but my passport isn't valid at the moment. It could be that, or maybe it has been revoked. I might be forbidden from leaving the country. Whatever the reason, I can't leave.
It is difficult to know how many people have left Turkey, but in Germany, for example, half of the Philipp Schartz scholarships granted to researchers in danger were awarded to Turks, followed by Syrians and Iraqis who escaped the war. And academics are not the only ones who are fleeing Turkish universities. More and more students are also trying to get scholarships abroad. None of those we contacted wanted to testify in front of the camera, but at this company, which helps Turks obtain visas, we were told that the reasons why people are choosing to leave are usually the same.
The people who are leaving usually have a high level of education and are used to a certain standard of living, but they're not very happy about living here. Some leave because they're not happy with the economic conditions in Turkey, or because they believe that they can't get a good job and earn a good salary here.
At a time when the Turkish lira is losing value, more and more young entrepreneurs dream of leaving. In this business incubator in Istanbul, many startup managers are looking for a way to set up their enterprises abroad. Such is the case of Ahu, a training engineer at the head of a culinary exchange platform for the past 3 years.
The whole startup world is searching for alternatives. Many entrepreneurs have moved their companies to Estonia. Everyone is trying to move their companies abroad since taxes are so high here.
No figures are reported by the government, and they declined our requests for an interview. But all indicators seem to signal the worst brain drain in Turkey in the past 40 years.
The atmosphere in Turkey right now is harmful to us both financially and personally. And we know that it's caused by the government's actions. We're not in a position to try to change their minds, but unless something changes, the brain drain will continue. People will leave for social, economic or political reasons. I believe that the number of people leaving will grow exponentially.
Nevertheless, Ahu feels sad at the thought of leaving Turkey. She studied at international schools and always had the option of moving abroad. But until recently, she was opposed to the idea.
For a long time, I accused my friends who chose to leave of being traitors. I used harsh words, accusing them of abandoning ship. But life has proven that they were right.
In various speeches, Turkish President Erdogan has stressed the need to counteract the brain drain. But for now, no strategy has been announced by the government to try to dissuade Turks from leaving.
For more on this, I'm now joined by Umut Özkurumlu, Professor of Political Science at Lund University's Centre for Modern European Studies. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. I'd like to start off by talking about Turkey's academics. Some have been in the government's bad books for a while, haven't they? Like those who signed a petition in early 2016 criticising the government's treatment of Kurds. I mean, the way the government is treating them dates back further than the crackdown linked to the failed coup.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most important watershed, we can say. I mean, that was a petition signed by 1,128 academics initially and published in January 2016. Later on, some other people joined them in support, actually, and that was a critique of government's treatment of the Kurds in the southeast. And that led to an immediate backlash by the government. President Erdogan himself, 2 days later, condemned them of basically treason, aiding and abetting terrorists. And then various actions were taken against them, both by the Higher Educational Council, but also by the prosecutors. And then, things, of course, had become much worse after the coup d'etat, the failed coup in July 2016. July 2016, and then and right now, actually, just last week, after almost a year's investigation, the chief prosecutor of Istanbul basically issued an indictment against each one of them. So all those signatories will be sued for basically propagandizing terrorism, and will be charged with 7.5 years in prison if they are found guilty.
So what about all those dismissed then since the failed coup? Our reporter says about 5,000 people. Are any of them able to find jobs? Because I understand that some are banned for life. They can't be employed again as civil servants.
Yeah, that's the main problem. I mean, the number, according to various estimates, is around 5,700, so almost 6,000, and that doesn't include necessarily those who were sacked from the universities that were actually shut down by the government. 15 universities were shut down prior to this crackdown. For allegedly being linked to Fethullah Gülen community, which was a one-time ally of Erdogan, and all these people, let's say 6,000 academics who were sacked, were banned from. There is a lifetime ban on employment as public servants. They're not able to find jobs in the private sector because they're, so to speak, they're stained, they're marked, so no one wants to employ them. This led actually to the suicide of a young economist, another one actually in the north of Turkey. Some lost their jobs working in temporary employments, like in construction sites. And not only that, as you have also mentioned in your coverage, there is there's a ban on their travel. So some have their passports confiscated, others have their passports, but they cannot leave the country, either to go to conferences or to seek jobs. So some of them who were able to find scholarships via these international institutions like Scholars at Risk, Scholar Rescue Fund, do have money to go abroad, but they can't because they're not allowed to leave the country.
So there were academics dismissed, and then also you mentioned others, lawsuits are brought against them, and charges are related to alleged support for terrorist activity, and that's in relation to Kurdish militants, and also, as you mentioned, support for Fethullah Gülen, the government accusing him of being behind the failed coup. But really, with these thousands of people, what's the strategy? What's the government, what's its message when it's purging the academia like this?
Well, to be honest, I think we need to be open about this. And you know, when I read the coverage of what's been going on in Turkey, right now the Western media and the commentators abroad, but also the Turkey expert, various Turkey experts are coming to the realization that the country right now is a plain and you know a plain autocracy, basically, in the way of Putin's Russia or you know some other countries that are usually mentioned in this context. It's a populist authoritarian leader who doesn't want any form of dissent. So it's not only the academics, but Turkey is the country which jails the most journalists in the country. More than 120,000 websites are closed, including Wikipedia, for instance. And you know, the charges are mostly absurd. In any case, the crackdown extends to so many different areas that, for instance, to give you just a simple example, even the judiciary suffers from a 1/3 of loss of prosecutors, lawyers, and judges, which means that you know, it's the same people who are writing these indictments, pretty much using the same lines. And this concept of recently coined concept of cocktail terror, which is an oxymoron in many ways, because you know these people are accused of being both supporters of the Islamist Gülen movement and the well, I mean, completely secular communist or whatever left-wing Kurdish movement, which were at odds with each other in the past. So basically, there is no message. The message is clear: don't criticize the government.
Just a quick word, though, on the brain drain more generally, because it's been going on for far longer than a year and a bit since the failed coup.
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's been going on for more than a year, and it's been facilitated by the state of emergency, which was declared immediately after the failed coup in July. And right now, basically, well, there are two things that needs to be mentioned in this context. I mean, one is the state of emergencies. I mean, the reports, the news coming from Turkey today suggests that it will be extended a 5th time today or tomorrow. We don't know exactly. And also, you know, we had a referendum which was marked by allegations of corruption, vote rigging, and it was, in any case, at the end of an unfair electoral campaign, which gave the president sweeping powers, basically changing the system from democracy to an authoritarian government. So it's easy to do these things, basically.
All right, I'm sorry, we've run out of time. Thank you very much, though, for joining us for today's Focus. Umut Uzkumralo joining us there. And thank you for watching. I'll be right back.